Hi there, everybody. It's Simon from Focus Cloud here. I hope you're keeping safe and keeping well. Today, I'm being joined by Anis Ahmed. Hi, Anis.
Hello. Hi, Simon.
Anis, I've actually had the pleasure of working with for about 10 years on and off. And Anis is a Workday Financial and HCM Consultant, specialising in change, training and adoption. And we're talking about a topic today, which is, I know, Anis, very near and dear to your heart, which is user adoption and engagement throughout a Workday implementation. And I know this is something that you're very, very passionate about and that you've spearheaded a number of times. And so from your experience, Anis, why is user adoption and engagement so important for a successful Workday implementation?
Oh, well, I mean, the main reason is that if you don't factor this into your kind of overall plan, at some point there'll come a time where this is important, and if you kind of have it halfway through a particular implementation, you miss opportunities very early on to be able to start priming and getting people ready for the whole kind of the whole new implementation, the new ways of working. So without proper engagement with the end users in your of the organization, as people start kind of hearing in the ether or various kind of lines of communication about this potential change, you'll get fear and frustration, what I call the 2 F's. And if you get those, that means slower rollout, slower use, proper use of the system. You really want your people to be on board and to buy into this. So it's a major part of any sort of implementation, and the earlier you can get into it and start the change management element of it, the communications, the better adoption, the quicker adoption, and the better your engagement with your teams as well. And that means you've got proper buy-in, and the business will effectively use the system in a more efficient way, much quicker.
Fantastic. And now, Anis, I know you were on a number of projects last year, and we worked together a lot, and we had a number of conversations, particularly through 2020, about this. And obviously 2020 was a tough year for everybody. But last year, this was, for a number of things that we spoke about, particularly a real key issue across some of the programs that we were talking about. But I saw that this was spiraling through the ecosystem last year. What are the common themes as to why this is more of a common occurrence than it should be?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's multiple. There's multiple things there. I mean, I think in a lot of cases, when organizations start planning any sort of implementation of a new system, so much focus is on the technical side of it, the design, the testing, the configuration, the data migration from legacy systems to Workday. So there's so much focus on this technical side, and much less time and effort is focused on the people side, which is absolutely essential in any sort of implementation of new ways of working, whether it's a new process or a new system or a new offering. You need to get people ready and people on your side, and people are your organization. The technology is great, but it's people. You've got to focus on that people side and the journey that those people will be having. That's not just your people journey, so your employees, but also kind of your leader journey, your sponsors, your key stakeholders. How are they looking at this? How are we going to get buy-in from them? And then how do they become our advocates for this fantastic new, system and program? So the program journey is important, but you've got to factor in leader journey, the people journey as well. A lot of times, there's a complexity of the features or a perception that this new system is going to be very complex. So you need to have a good change management plan implemented as quick as possible. It can be done further down. It can be something that can be thrown in. And a lot of times it ends up being, an afterthought or a bolt-on. Just as you're coming towards go live, you suddenly think, how are you going to, roll this out? How are your people going to use the system? We've told them all about it, but how has that landed? So, the right type of communication at the right time. Also, the training and the knowledge transfer. It mustn't be, it's the Goldilocks theme. It's not too soon and not too late. You've got to have it just right so that if it's too soon, just after testing, you're really excited, you start training people about it, they're going to forget by the time it goes to go live. If it's too late, people are frustrated or anxious about it. They're not sure if they've got the tools or the skills to be able to take this on board. So there's a slower adoption. So I think, the common themes really are, lack of communication, focus on too much on the technical side rather than the people side, and making sure that if you take people on that journey with you, then you're more likely to get quicker buy-in, quicker adoption, and better engagement over the whole organization, from vertically, from the top to the bottom, and horizontally as well.
Do you know, I love the statement that you made that technology isn't your organization, people are your organization. And I think with all this investment in tech like Workday, that can be forgotten. And I think you hit the nail on the head there massively, because I think from some of the things that we were discussing, particularly last year, that really was what was happening, wasn't it? That people were being forgotten about, people were concentrating on the technology. And then it's like, well, we've done this now, but what about our guys and girls? How are we? Okay, so that's really interesting. So again, you've been part of this for quite a while. You've seen a number of different HCM and FINS kind of implementations, and you've seen where they've done it right and they've seen where people have done it wrong. Okay, so what is the long-term impact of user adoption and engagement not occurring within a Workday implementation?
Again, another very good question, Simon. I think, well, we know that eventually the program will land. There will be a go live. It's, whether it's on time or pushed back, that, the investment means that there will be a go live. So it's going to happen. The question is, how smoothly will that transition be, to that new way of working? And so kind of the long-term impact, I think, is, you could have a disillusioned workforce. You could have a system that's built for the 21st century, to take your organization into this, 21st century, absolutely be fit for purpose and be ready to kind of take on all the challenges of doing business in this kind of century, but not being, the systems not being used effectively or efficiently. So the major investment that organizations make into kind of this new system isn't returning that return of investment. So if you're not doing that, then the organization struggles, the board, the shareholders, and the people itself, and the business will just not move forward in the best way possible. So you kind of lose a lot of the impact that system can potentially make for you. So I think the long-term impact is really just, it's a lose-lose, as opposed to having this new system working properly, which is a win-win. New ways of working, much more efficient, data at your fingertips, making better decisions, with the right information, all of this, which will help your system and your organization, to kind of move forward, will all be lost, or will slow down, and so you won't get it in the timeframes that you want. So opportunities are missed.
I think we once likened it on the phone to having a car, didn't we? As in buying a Ferrari with all the features and only turning it on to go from A to B. And it's like, you spent the money on all these features. You want people to know exactly how to use them, and you want people to want to use them. That's the thing.
And have fun with them. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. No, it's very interesting, Anis, and these insights are, I think, sometimes lacking in these implementations, as we've seen. But so, in your opinion, right, what can people do to take this advice that you're giving now and prepare for this, as opposed to react for this? Because I see this a lot, and you see this a lot happening fairly late. Okay, how can they make this part of the plan and really wrap their arms around this and use this as a focal point whilst they're implementing, to take people on the journey with them rather than play catch up?
Well, I think you've touched on in that question on a lot of the things that will work. It's making it part of your plan. Look at your organization, look at your culture of engagement, the language you use, assess how you work now. So take a snapshot where it's part of the planning anyway, that when you're putting a strategy together, you look at where you are now. When I join an organization, to implement, a change management and a training plan, then what I would do is almost immediately take a snapshot of the organization right now, whether it's a needs analysis, a gap analysis, where you are now, where do you want to be at the end of this implementation and moving forward. So your short, mid, long-term kind of strategies, and then look at the steps that you need to kind of take to get you there, not just the technical side, but the people side. So, you need to kind of find out how to incorporate a fit for purpose change management and training strategy and incorporate that into your overall plan very early on. So it's not a bolt on, it's not like a mid term suddenly kind of revelation that, well, we've got to get our people ready for this. It's part of your initial plan, and the earlier you can implement it, then it won't be an afterthought. It will be part of your plan. So you can almost start the comms very early on in the process. So you can start talking about how this is a new system, the vision, why we're doing what we're doing. All of that will kind of start easing the teams in your workforce into that kind of the thinking about, this is going to be really good. That kind of fear of the unknown will start to be alleviated as well. So it's all about implementing it as soon as possible. And that way you're more likely to get people to kind of understand why we're doing it, what's the benefit for them, and this is when you start putting your plans together. When you put your change kind of management plan together, it's not just looking at all of the methodologies that are out there and saying, well, we'll use this and it's one size fits all. Potentially, one of the ways that I would look at it would be to look at all of these different methodologies. And why I remember writing an article last year that was published that was around, what are the why you should take on a brand new or an experienced trainer or change management consultant. And it's because they can look at your organization, take a good snapshot of it, look at all the methodologies out there, and then put an amalgam, a best kind of practice program together for it. You cherry pick all the best bits. So for example, you would look at Nosta, which would allow you to put the building blocks in to kind of say, right, have you got the vision? Have you got the resources? Are the skills in place? Do you have an action plan? Do you have the incentives? Is everybody skilled up? Then if any of those building blocks are missing, then that there'll be, if you don't have an action plan, then there's kind of false starts. If you don't have the vision, there's confusion as to why we're doing this. If you don't have skills and things like that, there's frustration. Look at that as a building block, but you shouldn't just look at that on its own as a standalone methodology. You start looking at things like bridges, for example, which is all about winning hearts and minds. So you have the technical plan there, but you also start thinking about how you can win hearts and minds over. So how you go from the current state of things, the reason for the change, going through that transition, that kind of middle ground where you're getting rid of the old ways of working, going to the future state and that new ways of working, and winning hearts and minds. It's a state of mind. It's psychologically having people on your side as well. And then using really tried and tested processes like ProSci with ADCAR, where you kind of go through all of the kind of the key elements within that training: awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, reinforcement. Once you put all of that plan together, then and it's bespoke for each organization, then you're more likely to get adoption and user adoption and engagement much quicker.
But it isn't.
That's a really long way of answering that.
Perfect. That's what we want. It's good to hear this stuff, because we've talked so many times, Anis, over the 10 plus years I've known you, from before you were even in the Workday ecosystem. And it's not one size fits all, is it? It's always bespoke. Every organization has its own intricacies, its own culture. And, you can say, this is how I want my people to learn. And this is how I want my people to adopt this, but it doesn't work that way. You have to kind of almost go down to the granular level of your culture. How do we get these people to adopt?
Yeah, absolutely. You understand your people. If you know exactly what the pain points are, if you know what the areas of resistance are, then when you put your change plan together, you have resistance management, you have the comms, which is absolutely essential. A lot of organizations that I know that have either fallen down or have had issues with their implementation, it's really just basically about comms. It's about, how have you communicated this? Have you explained the reasons why we're doing it? Have you explained the vision? Have you got you know, I remember putting a video together to launch Workday with a particular organization based in Germany last year. And I put like an intro to it to kind of say, we're going to launch Workday. This is what Workday is. And I had a cartoon animated character of myself, because obviously I like to kind of, I like the sound of my own voice.
To the public after this video, by the way, we'll make sure that you can get that.
Thank you very much. But then what I did was included in that intro was also an inspirational message from the CEO, the head of Europe, to kind of say, look, you know, this is why we're doing what we're doing. I put the script together. I helped him, you know, implementing all of the strategy, the mission, and, you know, the vision that the company had. And getting someone to actually, you know, someone high up to kind of say, buy into it and say, really take this on board, have an open mind. You know, you start kind of breaking down the barriers and the kind of the concerns and the anxiety that people have. And it's just making sure that everybody's, you know, singing from the same hymn sheet. They're kind of actually excited about these new changes. And when they come along talking about how it's going to make their life better and how it's going to make their work better, it's going to be more efficient, but also, you know, you're going to have the chance to develop yourself as well, because Workday isn't just, or, you know, a system to be, you know, data in one place and everything. There's people development, there's talent management, there's loads of other things where you can almost find kind of a way forward within a particular organization, succession planning and all of that. So it's people development as well. So it is all really about the people, and that's what that system's there for. It's the focus on how do you get the most out of your organization, but really it's all about how do we develop people, how do we manage them, how do we make sure that we can make their jobs as easier as possible and that they enjoy what they do.
Well, Anis, I think, I mean, as we know, you're super passionate about this, and we know that you know your stuff. So, you know, I really appreciate you taking some time to kind of talk about this. And the message, guys, is user adoption and engagement. It isn't something to do later. You know, if you're starting on your journey, take this with you in your backpack. Start straight away. Make sure you've got it. Make sure you're using it throughout the journey, and your implementation will go so much more smoothly. So, Anis, really appreciate your time. Great to chat to you as always. And guys, if you've got any questions, please feel free to give us a call. And thank you for watching. All the best.